Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Arbitrary 20. So I am notorious in our group for rolling bad ability scores. In the last two one-shots we played, I had to take Gauntlets of Ogre Power or a Headband of Intellect just to have a decent main stat. So in this video, I thought it would be fun to challenge myself to build a powerful character with a negative modifier in every stat. The character we're building today will have a 7 in every ability score.
And 777,777.
And that's after racial bonuses. And I do have one additional challenge to add on top of that, and it's that I can't take any ability score increases, though I am still allowed to take half feats, those being the feats that give you a +1 to an ability score. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the race. We're actually going to be going Turtle on this character with a -2 to strength and dexterity. We're not going to be having a good time with any type of armor, and the class we're going restricts what type of armor we can wear. So it's going to be nearly impossible to get a decent AC without going Turtle. And for ability scores, we kind of already went over it in the intro, but if you did roll something higher than 7, I would put that into wisdom and or constitution. And for our ideal equipment, this is one of the nicer things about this build. All you really need is a spellcasting focus, so it's pretty cheap. Maybe give the rest of your gold or starting equipment to someone else in your party. And moving on to level 1 will be a druid 1, and we will be a druid the whole way through because we will never be able to multiclass. So the big thing we get here at druid 1 is spellcasting, but we have to keep in mind that we have a wisdom of 7, so we can't really depend on it for a spell save DC or a spell attack roll. We do have a lot more solutions to that later on, but it is pretty hard here at level 1. In terms of cantrips, I would just take some utility cantrips like guidance, and then I would take one ranged damage cantrip just to get you by until level 2. And then for first level spells, I think a really good one for us is Fog Cloud because it doesn't depend on our wisdom at all. Entangle and Fairy Fire could be decent options as well, but they do both require saving throws. Another thing to keep in mind that since our wisdom is 7, for the first 3 levels of druid, we can only have 1 spell prepared. So yeah, we're basically just trying to survive level 1. Or you could just die and roll up a new character. That's a pretty good option as well. Hopefully you roll better stats that time. But if you do survive and stick with this character, it gets a whole lot better at level 2. Because at level 2 we get our Druid Circle, and many of you have probably guessed that we are going Circle of the Moon. Because how do we deal with bad stats? We turn into something with better ones. The Circle of the Moon solves like half of the problems we have by itself, especially at these early levels. And we'll unlock Challenge Rating 1 Wild Shape forms. The forms I would recommend until we get to level 6 are the Brown Bear and the Direwolf. And now we'll move on to levels 3 and 4, and we'll get access to second level spells here. The two I like that don't really depend on our wisdom but are still good are Spike Growth and Pass Without Trace. Pass Without Trace is obviously amazing for stealth, and Spike Growth is a decent control spell by itself, but gets even better with forced movement. We don't have a lot of forced movement options yet, but we will get some later. The only thing you could really do right now is grapple them and drag them across the Spike Growth, which still is not a bad strategy. And for the feat we get at Druid level 4, I would go with Resilient Con. This is mainly to help with our concentration checks, but it will boost all of our constitution saving throws both in and out of wild shape. And then on to level 5. This is a big level for us because we get access to 3rd level spells, and that means Conjure Animals. This does not rely on our wisdom whatsoever, and it is one of the best damage spells in the game. You'll usually want to be summoning 8 CR 1/4 beasts. This spell is extremely powerful if you're able to choose what beasts you get, but a lot of tables aren't going to let you do that. The way we do it here at Arbitrary 20 is we randomly choose between all of the CR 1/4 beasts. There are websites that can automatically do this for you, like 5e Tools, and I think this helps the spell be a lot more balanced but still be good as well. But even if your DM is deciding for you, as long as you don't get something like 8 CR0 creatures, you're probably going to be fine. I would probably talk to your DM about how they're going to run the spell before you cast it in game. For damage numbers, I'm going to be showing one of the stronger CR 1/4 creatures and one of the weaker CR 1/4 creatures, though you'll probably end up somewhere in the middle most of the time. And though we still don't have very many preparation slots, some other 3rd level spells you could consider are Aura of Vitality, Dispel Magic, and Revivify. And now that we have all of the important pieces, we can go over our tactics here. Conjure Animals does last an hour, so I would try to get that up before combat if you can, but it's totally okay to use your first action in a combat to cast it as well. Then once you have Conjure Animals up, just use your bonus action to Wild Shape and then start attacking. And I'll be putting our sustained damage numbers in a few different situations up on the screen now. You can pause if you'd like to read them. And then after that, we'll move on to levels 6 through 9. For Wild Shape, we'll unlock CR2 and CR3 forms in this time. The CR2 forms I would recommend are the Polar Bear and the Giant Elk, and then the CR3 forms I would recommend are the Ankylosaurus and the Giant Scorpion. Also, don't forget you unlock Flying forms at level 8, which is a really nice utility feature. We'll also get 4th and 5th level spells in this time. Some 4th level spells I would consider are Guardian of Nature, Conjure Woodland Beings and Polymorph. Guardian of Nature being a good boost to your wild shape. Conjure Woodland Beings being a summon spell similar to Conjure Animals, but it summons Fae instead of beasts. Then Polymorph will be a great option when either you're out of wild shapes or one of your allies is about to go down. You can just turn yourself or them into a giant ape. And then in terms of 5th level spells, you'll probably just want to be upcasting Conjure Animals to get 16 beasts, but you could also take some utility spells. My first pick would probably be Greater Restoration. And then we'll get another feat in this time. I would take the Crusher feat and take another +1 to Constitution. This also importantly brings our Constitution to a 9, and we get an additional 8 hit points. That is something I never thought I would say. And at level 10, we get another huge jump in power, that being Elemental Wild Shape. All of the different elemental forms will have their use cases, but I think the Air Elemental and the Fire Elemental are the best overall. And then at level 10, our tactics are pretty much the same. We're just going to want to be using Elemental Wild Shape instead of regular Wild Shape now. But I would like to show the damage numbers now that we have Elemental Wild Shape, so those will be showing up on the screen now. Once again, you can pause if you'd like to read them. And now we're just going to quickly go over level 11 and beyond. Our tactics are going to remain pretty much the same. Our big damage increases are going to be the levels where we can upcast Conjure Animals when we get 7th and 9th level spells. For that 7th level slot, I think upcasting Conjure Animals is usually going to be worth it, but for that 9th level slot, Shape Change could be a better option in certain scenarios. And then in terms of feats, I would be sure to take one more Constitution half feat to get our Constitution to a 10, once again increasing our maximum hit points in Druid form. I also like Gift of the Chromatic Dragon. It gives us an Absorb Elements like effect that we can use while we're wild shaped, and we can make an ally's weapon deal a bit more damage. And then in terms of spell selection, I would mainly be going with utility spells here. In terms of damage, it's just going to be really hard to beat upcasting Conjure Animals. I would go for spells like Hero's Feast, Transport via Plants, or Plane Shift. If you do want some different combat options to change it up a little bit, Conjure Fae and Animal Shapes are not too bad. And lastly, here are our damage numbers at level 20 in a few different situations. And with that, the build is complete. After level 1, I think this is definitely a strong character despite its bad stats. If you'd like to check out my last build guide where I built a College of Valor Bard, you can find that right here. Either way, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.